Hello, everyone. This is The Big Picture on WVKC, the voice of Knox, the show where I interview people about their passions and lives. And today I'm joined by Liam Wholihan, really good friend of mine. Hello there.
Hi, Matt. Hello, Internet.
Hello.
Radio waves.
Radio waves, everything.
Everything.
And you are actually a repeat offender,
Yes.
though the original recording's a bit crisp, as it were.
It was in the pioneer days.
Yeah, it was in the start before I was really certain what form this would take, because that was back when I was still doing Facebook Live.
I remember. I shared the link, and it was interesting.
It was interesting, yeah. And I'm happy to have you with this much better system where this nice microphone actually picks up things well.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't have to rely on internet.
It's a pretty microphone.
It is. It's got a little dent in it, but, it's builds character.
Yes.
But anyway, how about you give your little icebreaker, who you are, what you're doing.
I'm Liam Wholihan, first of his name. I'm from Maryland, Silver Spring, Maryland originally. I live in Annapolis now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a junior here at Knox.
Yeah, Knox.
So next year's going to be my last year.
Which has to be crazy to think about.
Yeah. I still remember leaving high school to come to Knox. So yeah, it's wild.
It's amazing how quickly it goes, because I was talking to, I think, Simone the other day, and we were both like, we're already juniors, we're co-presidents of improv now. It's it feels like it goes so fast.
Yeah, I gotta start looking at grad schools and careers and
other
things.
The life after Knox.
Yeah.
Well, before we jump into that, I'm going to ask you a few questions about your life before Knox, I suppose.
Sure, yeah.
Or, to be more quaint, what were sort of the steps that led to you choosing Knox as a school?
Okay, yeah. So, my college counselor at Gonzaga College High School, when it came time to look at colleges, and there's a little algorithm they have or something, and he asked me, how big do you want the school to be? And there were a bunch of little bubbles, kind of like the 1 to 5, and I chose small. I did. And they said, what do you want to focus in? And creative writing and psychology. And he popped it in. I think there were 30 results. There weren't many that fit that criteria. And Knox was at the top of the list.
Yeah, Knox is really well known for its creative writing major, and its psych is really good too.
Yeah.
And so Knox is sort of an obvious choice in that regard. Did you end up ever visiting Knox before making that decision, or?
I didn't visit Knox. No, I
So you kind of took the leap of faith in that regard, right?
Yeah, I actually barely looked at the website either. Well, I'd gotten into a handful of places, actually pretty much everywhere, and I was considering my options, and Knox was affordable. It had all the things I wanted to do, and to actually fly out and then fly back, the amount of school time I would have had to miss and work hours would have cost a lot of money. So I figured I'd just visit for a year, get credits, and if I didn't like it, I'd transfer. And I liked it, so I stayed.
So you stayed.
Yeah.
Very nice. Was there any sort of things when you came to Knox that you were since you didn't look at the website or anything, that you weren't expecting, I suppose? Something you showed up and went, whoa, don't know about this, or what's this about?
So coming to Knox was my first time ever entering the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
And I wasn't able to quite articulate it at the time, but I'm from Maryland, right? And grew up a lot in Maryland, D.C. area. And the buildings in D.C. are squat, and the streets really narrow, right? Everything feels compacted together, and the townhouses all line up to each other. But in the Midwest, there's a lot of open spaces, and I know a lot of people talk about the cornfields or whatever. But even Galesburg, those are wide streets, man. And then the sidewalks are really wide, and you've got these. Yeah, everything feels like if you were in Photoshop, you just dragged it to the side. It feels flat.
It's because it's so flat. Yeah, and we have all this space to just put things.
There's no water either. Growing up in Maryland, I always had the Chesapeake Bay as a reference point.
like location.
Yeah, like anywhere you were, you'd be like, oh, if I walked like to my left for long enough, I'm gonna walk into the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Or like you'd just be driving, you could see it, you could always see it, or it's how I based my sense of direction. You come out here, and there's nothing.
It's just flat all around.
Yeah, there's no hills, there's no mountains, and there's no ocean, which is weird. So yeah.
Yeah, you grew up around the ocean, and we do alongside with the waters I bring.
Yes, the waters you bring.
Yeah, we do each have Old Bay with us, which is a seasoning you introduced me to.
I never leave home without it.
You have a much bigger thing of Old Bay than I do. But
well, I went home, and I said, Dad, I'm actually going to need to drop by the store and pick up some Old Bay. He's like, that's okay. We just ran out here. So I went out and got like 3 containers, and he gave me a fresh container. And I was like, we're in tune like that.
If I'm to understand correctly, there's like a sort of culture around Old Bay in Maryland, right?
Yeah. Old Bay's big, man. Like, we put it on everything when I was growing up, especially crabs. But like crabs, seafood. My dad uses it when he marinates like pretty much any meat he's cooking. He puts it in his fried chicken batter. He does, and then when he makes shepherd's pie, he puts it in it. Yeah, it's a big East Coast thing.
Now, is it sort of because was Old Bay made in that area? I'm guessing, so like it kind of has this like local thing around it, or
I don't know how I know this, but so it's made by McCormick, right? And it's manufactured in Baltimore, I believe. They've got I think they've still got a factory there or something. It's made in Maryland. That's why it's more expensive at the Walmart out here.
Yeah,
it's cheaper back home.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, sort of along with that, like you said, there was this sort of weird transition to the Midwest, just sort of local, like geography-wise.
Yes.
But how are like do the people feel any different? Is like the culture different? Because I kind of lived in the Midwest most of my middle school to high school life, so.
Yeah, one of my first days here, I didn't bring bed sheets or toiletries or anything, because I figured if I didn't use the packing space and I didn't already have those things, I could just buy them when I was here. Yeah. And I walked to this Walgreens. I forget what street. I guess it would be off Main Street. Yeah. And like that's when that kind of hit me that how flat and spread out everything is. But then I walked into the Walgreens. There was like one person in there at like lunchtime, right? And I was like, oh, and that was my introduction to the energy of Galesburg. Everybody's rushing in D.C. and Maryland. Most people have like suits and ties and pantsuits and everything, and everybody's looking super professional and they're all stressed out. And like when it's rush time at like just anywhere, like even CVS will be packed, just because. And there's no traffic here.
Yeah, like compared to cities or more tight places, like it's pretty easy driving.
Yeah, well, I was here alone for spring break, my sophomore year, and like I went 3 days without seeing another human being. You know, which was weird, man. It was cool. Like I like being out here because sometimes you get those experiences. Yeah. And it's a lot more quiet out here. There's a lot less noise pollution.
Especially when college students are gone.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's wild.
Yeah. So college sort of has its experiences or whatever. So coming to Knox, like what did you gravitate toward your sort of freshman year? What sort of extracurriculars and groups?
Yeah. Dave Hoffman invited me to play jazz drums because I showed up and I figured I'd try out for whatever. And they're like, cool, we're going to put you in they put me in 2 combos. Beginning jazz combo because I'd never played jazz before, and a trad jazz combo with Dave Hoffman. That was wild. And then I kind of naturally ended up in a lot of the writing circles. First week or so of the term, I applied to Cellar Door, and they brought me on as a poetry editor.
Wow, your first couple weeks at Knox?
Well, that's when they were hiring. Yeah, and I applied, and they said, "Hey, welcome aboard." It was a big staff, man. It was awesome to be a part, because I'm still a part, and I'm looking to be a part of it next year. Yeah.
That's something. So you've played drums before, but you hadn't gone into jazz till you got to Knox?
That's correct. Yeah. I had been playing I started playing when I was 8 years old. I had a little kit, and I played in the kind of school band in middle school.
It's like sort of pep band and...
maybe a little more than pep band. Like, we played pep band tunes, but then we did other stuff too.
Like, orchestral stuff,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then I went to high school and played in the Symphonic Winds ensemble. Yeah, I became the timpani player, because I was the guy that could tune the timpani, and with my arms I could reach everything and do the rolls and whatever. So I got all the timpani parts. Yeah, I got all the timpani parts.
Wow. So so you've been into poetry. I believe we talked about this last time, but let's talk about it again. For a long time, who was sort of the person who introduced you to poetry?
So Mr. Joseph Ross at Gonzaga College High School. I showed up to a poets and writers meeting. I'd been invited by a guy I had lunch with. His name's Joe Dayhut. If you want to check out Joe Dayhut now, he's glowing up. He's writing for Fly Fishing magazine, taking photos for him, and then occasionally just dropping poems out into the aether. He's a great guy. He founded the club that year and invited me to come by, and I showed up with some like terrible science fiction, like really really poorly written, and they were very gracious. I read it, and they were like, "Oh, okay, well, here's some things you could do," and they gave me a bunch of feedback. But I was the only one like doing fiction in the group, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you try writing a poem, Liam?" I was like, "Oh, I've only ever written poems in like grade school, right?
Yeah.
For like when they had you do it in class." So I was like, "Okay, I'll try writing a poem." And I wrote this horrible poem, and I brought it in next week, and they workshopped it, and they gave me feedback. And Mr. Ross said one thing. I had one line in there, like "eyelids made of lead" was the line. And he was like, "Wow, that was really good." He didn't have much nice to say about the rest of the poem. In his gracious way, he was giving very nice feedback. But he said that line stuck with him, and I had a class with him, or I ran into him at some other thing that next week, and he was like, "Yeah, I was thinking about that line." So then I was hooked, right?
Just because he complimented you on that one thing.
Just one thing, just one.
But I think that shows something about, the ability you can have on people of just being like, you know what, this thing's good. You should keep pursuing this.
Yeah. Well, and then I got into it, right? And I was like, all right, I'm coming to all the meetings. I went to all the poetry slams and like helped organize readings and events and stuff, and spent like a solid year and a half writing really bad, just like rhythm poems, just beat poems. And I don't know. I was learning. I was learning a lot. It was the sandbox.
So did your love of like rap music come after the discovery of poetry and have to play into that, or was it before?
Yeah, I didn't listen to almost any rap. But then right when I started getting into poetry, I discovered Bus Driver and Milo and Anderson .Paak. So that would have been like 2013. I discovered these guys. That's right when So the Flies Don't Come came out. That's right when Thumbs came out by Bus Driver. And there was the one song, Words to Run, that had all three of them on it. And they've kind of formed my entire music taste out of those. But yeah, then I got really into it. And that's kind of where a lot of the rhythm stuff came from, because I was listening to all this rap, and then I was in class learning about like Langston Hughes, right? And then I'm writing these beat poems. It makes perfect sense.
And I will say, I've read a few of your poems, and your sense of rhythm and poetry and beat is fantastic and very well trained.
I'm glad you like it. It's just fun.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Though Monica has been kind of Didn't Monica kind of bug you to start going away from that a little, though?
Well, her exact words were, she was like, well, you know how to write the poems with rhythm. You know how to do it with the tight enjambment, and you know how to write your family. And I was like, well, yeah, that's pretty much most of what I do. She was like,
Yeah.
okay, why don't you try writing some poems without that? Or just toning it down. And then I did, and she was right, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's always challenged me to look beyond that. And Nick has too. Nick and Monica have always pushed me to go beyond that, and I'm grateful for that.
Would you say that Monica and Nick and these sort of the professors here at Knox have really formed your look on poetry?
Absolutely. Yeah, I showed up. I didn't use punctuation, man. I didn't capitalize, and I didn't use punctuation. Because, well, I'd spent like 3 years reading just poets out of the Harlem Renaissance.
Yeah.
Right? And they were doing all this wild stuff with form and not using punctuation and capitalization, all this other wild stuff. And I really liked E. Cummings. So I was like, I don't need to capitalize. I don't
Yeah.
need to punctuate things. It's a statement. But then my first year, right, I took a workshop with Nick, and he was like, oh, he'd mentioned syntax. Always come back to syntax. And I never actually put it together. I just thought I needed to make my images clearer to support not using punctuation and capitalization. Turns out the whole grammar thing works.
Yeah.
And you can use it poetically. So, yeah. But Monica and Nick, they've been fantastic. I've taken classes with Gina and Beth too, and we've like kind of adjacently talked about poetry. It's been the subject matter, but doing my own work has always been with Monica and Nick.
Yeah. This is a silly question off of that, but what would be your most favorite form of punctuation and your least favorite form of punctuation?
Ooh, okay. I think my least favorite is the period.
All right. Respectable. Yeah. Any particular reason?
I think it's not that I don't like the period. It's just a lot of commitment. It is.
To like end the statement on that. Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I think sometimes it's fun to not end thoughts in the poem. Or if you do, you stretch them across enjambment. And I tend to lean on the comma more than the period. Because the period's a lot. It's a stop sign.
Yeah.
In the middle of your
saying
in the middle of your poem.
Yeah.
A favorite.
That's gonna be the hard one.
A semicolon.
Semicolons are good.
Yeah, I already liked it beforehand. I didn't use it very much. But then I was reading Adrian Matika, right? And that man's work with the semicolon sold. I was sold. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Well, I don't want to lose sight of something you brought up earlier. Was Monica was saying not only do you focus on beat, but you also focus on your family.
That's right.
You are particularly close to your family, particularly your brother and your father.
That's correct. Yes.
What do you think were the building blocks that created such a tight bond between you three? Was it living situation? Like, what were the building blocks of that relationship?
His living situation.
Yeah.
It is everything. My father raised my brother and I, and he had an opportunity, because my parents got divorced when I was very young. I was 2 years old and change. My brother would have been 6 months old, 8 months old. And he had the opportunity to just relinquish custody, and then recover his business, build back up, and leave us and be kind of an absentee father.
Yeah.
Instead, and he's self-employed at the time, and he still is. But instead, he said, "No, these are my kids. I'm going to do this." So we decided to be a single father, self-employed, and fight for both of those in court. So we'd spend like 12 hours a day with him, right? He wouldn't drop us at daycare or anything because he'd just take us to work. And then he built his schedule around when we were off school. So he tried to be at home as much as he could when we were off school and be there when we left for school in the morning. And when we were really young, like between 2 and up until like kindergarten, we were spending every day with him. So part of it's the time, and then the other part of it is out of that we're inseparable, right? I mean, like I'm at college, my brother's at college now. We're in different parts of the parts of the United States, but that bond we have from going through everything we went through together,
Yeah.
and doing it like in the proximity that we did, I think accounts for how close we are.
The bond of it.
Yeah, and my father's always been really big on telling us he loves us and being open about affection and just letting us know what's going on with him, and that's kind of the culture of family that we grew up in. So anything less wouldn't be family, right?
Mm-hmm. It was that sort of honesty that he had with you.
Absolute honesty, yeah.
Was a big part of that then, right?
Yeah. Well, and he gave us a lot of responsibility when we were little too. Part of that was just the nature of being a single parent.
Yeah.
But I remember even when I was like 3-4 years old, you know how adults kind of have this voice they take on when they're talking to kids?
Yeah.
And they kind of change the way they think, and they're treating someone like, oh, this is a child,
Mm-hmm.
right? He never engaged with us on that access. He talked to us like we were adults. And when we said things, he listened. And then I remember my 8th birthday, he said, "You're a man now." And I was like, whoa, that's a lot of pressure.
8. That's awesome.
Right? But he started he'd give us responsibility, and when Aiden and I lived up to it, he'd just keep going. So he'd be treating us like young men, adults, and he would never call us kids.
Mm.
Like by the time I was 10 and Aiden was 8, he'd see that these are my young men, right?
Wow.
And so there was a mutual respect that he started when we were very, very young, and now he talks to me like I'm an old friend. He doesn't talk to me like I'm a kid that our relationship is a gift from him, right? Which of course it is, but he doesn't talk about it as if it's some extra preternatural effort that he's made. He's like, this is, you're Liam. You're 8. Yeah.
So, would you say this method that your dad implemented is like a solid parenting method, like in general, or do you think it was very specific to you and Aiden?
I couldn't say.
You wouldn't know. Yeah.
I really wouldn't know. I think part of it was that we have his personality, so it worked. And parts of it, like, I talk about it and I'm all happy about it, but there are intense parts of that. When I was 6 and 8 years old, I joined him for like 8 to 10 hour work days. And he didn't like bring his kids along and have them on the job site. It started off, we'd hand him tools and get stuff from the truck, and then as soon as we were strong enough to hold tools, he had us working with them. And sometimes I'll mention that to people, and they can't wrap their minds around it. They're like, that's insane. And some people are like, that's child labor.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'd have thoughts of child labor or.
Yeah, but
yeah.
For me, the handyman stuff was like play. You know, because every kid that I've had the opportunity to teach through martial arts, or that I've just interacted with, like, they see their father doing work, or even their mother doing work, any parent, guardian doing work, and they want to get in on it. They're like, yeah, let me get involved. I want to spend time with you and do this with you. And he brought us into it. So when it came time to get other jobs, I had this plethora of experience. I can't cite it on my resume, of course, but yeah.
In interviews, you can kind of be like, hey, I did this. Or...
Yeah. So I don't know how applicable it would be to other people, but I know it worked.
It worked at least for you and Aiden.
Yeah, it worked for Aiden and I.
And at this point, your father is like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like your biggest role model in a lot of ways,
Absolutely,
right?
Yes.
I mean, Olympic level martial artist, just good man in general, fought to have you and Aiden.
Yeah, he's dedicated his entire life to his children, and I don't even mean that in a sappy way.
In
right?
like a quite literal.
You know, if we just look at if we look at the logistics of this man's life, right? Everything he does, he brings it back to the family, and there are a lot of parents like that. And when he was doing it, when we were really young, there were people telling him, they were like, Mickey, there's no way you can do this. And he didn't, of course, he would say things in his own way, but what I've parsed together from the different tellings he's told me is that he doesn't see himself as having had any other options. Like, no, this is what you do. They're your kids.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah.
That kind of discipline, like self-discipline, be like, these are my kids. I'm gonna do this. So your father has a history of martial arts, and
Yes.
do you think that played any part in like his sense of discipline and ability to do what he did with you and Aiden? Do you think
Absolutely.
does martial arts change you that much when you really get into it? And
Yeah, well, he started doing martial arts when he was 12 years old. He's 59 now.
wow.
He does it, every day. And he was doing it every day. And I can see the discipline in him, and I can see how he's brought it to Aiden and I. And I can see how he takes that discipline to how he teaches, right? Because he teaches people that are in their 60s. He teaches people that are in their mid-20s. He's training a couple guys right now that are like looking to go professional, and they came to him. And he teaches preschoolers. He teaches kindergartners. I've taught preschoolers and kindergartners for him too. I've taught people all along that spectrum, and with it, he comes to every person on an individual like basis. But he also doesn't give you any slack. Like, he will push you as far as you can go. And with the little kids, that doesn't mean like doing some wild physical things. I think that's what a lot of people would run to.
Yeah.
But he challenges their ability to listen and follow instructions, which, doesn't sound very difficult. But if you've ever had a room of like 24-year-olds, you want to get them all to do the same thing, like together, or get them to partner up and do things. That takes a lot of discipline on that part.
Yeah.
And it's wild to see happen.
And I know I kind of made a general statement of martial arts, but what kind of martial arts does your father sort of specialize in, teach?
Yeah. So he was taught by Gary Fuchs, and my father is the sole instructor and owner of the Karate Club of America, established in 1983, I believe. Would have been right when he got out of high school. And we teach mixed martial arts, American kickboxing, taekwondo, and some other stuff. The big things are from taekwondo and a lot of the East Asian martial arts. We use the traditional forms, right? And then the kickboxing combinations and self-defense techniques, which we also take self-defense techniques from taekwondo. And that's kind of what encompasses mixed martial arts, and the weapon techniques of taekwondo.
Yeah, what kind of weapons have you trained in?
Yeah.
That's just curiosity.
That's a weird, I've never heard that one out loud.
What kind of weapons have you trained with?
Sounds like the beginning of a spy movie.
Yeah, like guns in your shoes, something like that.
No guns. It used to be you've learned how to fire a pistol for your black belt exam, but I didn't have to do that.
Why was that? Why was that part of the black belt?
It's a weapon. It's important to know how to use. But then after 9/11, the school changed and stopped using guns. Yeah.
Just out of sort of like a general...
It was the way things were going. People didn't want to work with them anymore.
Huh.
Yeah. But I've been trained with our knee sticks, sais, kamas, nunchucks, butterfly knives, sword and shield techniques.
Sword and shield techniques?
Yes. We use the padded ones to practice.
Yeah, of course, but
yeah, I've done sword and shield stuff, and I might be forgetting some, but those are the big ones. The really big ones are our knee sticks and nunchucks and knives. And sparring. So, yeah.
Sparring is just known,
fighting.
It's just fighting. Yeah. And I remember... I'm going to just kind of nerd with you for a bit now, I think. But I remember when you would talk about sparring, you're not, hitting each other. When you have two really good spars, it's
Yeah.
They, stop right before they hit, right? Or,
Yeah, well, the idea is if you have two really, really accomplished guys that have been training for a long time, their control means that they can go full speed, full power, and not touch each other, right? Often the warm-up rounds... Part of the reason we have the warm-up rounds, we do no contact. You don't hit it all during the warm-up round. You're just kind of getting used. So for people that aren't as maintenance, as we say, and I fall into that category right now. I'm not practicing every day.
Yeah.
I do most of my stuff when I'm at home. It's a good kind of, okay, this is where my body's at today. But for the upper level fighters, the no contact round is when you go as hard as fast as possible, and you're on full speed. You got people walking each other up and down the gym, and it's wild. And you make all the noises too. You yell, and you can hear like their clothes rippling under the speed of how fast they're going. It's wild. And I've done. I mean, I was doing that for years, and it feels good. Yeah. So when I would spar with my brother a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd spar with my father sometimes, and I'd spar with a lot of the other black belts. And the black belts, a lot of them, you'd go full speed, full power, and you'd never touch until you went to the contact round. And then when you do that, it's light touch, just enough to let them know you're there.
Yeah.
But that's it. You never hit hard.
Which is, again, that sort of self-control and discipline. I know for a lot of people out there, the prospect of being so disciplined every day, work, that sort of thing, can kind of seem distant. And I myself, I've been trying to be disciplined and going to the gym, that sort of thing. What sort of, from your experience and from what your dad has done, would you say are like sort of the keys to disciplining yourself?
Discipline. Oh my.
That's a big question.
Well, here, let me pull out our business card.
Oh, is it on there?
It's on there.
Yes, he is pulling out a business card right now.
I am. Discipline the body, comma, the mind will follow.
That's actually, so like, I've been going to the gym every day.
Yeah.
And
do you feel different?
Yeah, I always I ramble sometimes about how good it is for your mental health. Like, I feel like I'm more readily able to do like work. In other ways. And in social psych right now, we recently talked about how, any act of self-control allows you to do other acts of self-control even better.
Yep. So there's a couple ways to answer the discipline question. I'll start with the one I'm most familiar with. Over the summer, I was teaching a handful, only a few of them, like 4 and 5-year-olds. Well, no, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And you don't put them through all the rigorous stuff that you do with like teenagers and between teenagers and like 30. The big thing you're having them do is instruction-based stuff and drills. And one of those is we bring out balloons. And they have to keep the balloon in the air with just punches. Right?
Yeah.
And, we do these towards the end. It's our cool down.
Yeah.
But they've got a lot of energy going into it. Do it right after dodgeball. And they'll be whamming on them, and they'll smack them as hard as they can, and that's fine. But you'll watch them realize that if they want to control where the balloon goes, they have to control how hard they hit the balloon. And then I'll have them do rounds. I'm like, all right, cool, now you're going to go as fast as you can. And then now you're going to hit as hard as you can. And then you do, nice and quiet. Do it as slow as possible. And then you do full speed. And then you do full power. Then you do full speed, full power. Then you do just full power. So yeah, that's where we do for the little kids.
And that just sort of teaches you the prospect of, so like, for example, I only go to the gym 30 minutes a day.
That's fine.
But if I went like 2 hours a day, I probably wouldn't be able to keep up with that, right? I mean,
maybe. You don't know.
I don't know, I suppose. But like,
yeah.
So when talking about discipline, like in that way, you're telling those kids like, hey, to have more control over what you're doing is the better option.
We actually don't even tell them they're practicing control.
They figure that out themselves in a way.
Part of what I've learned actually through kind of my high school and college education that I'm noticing how my dad teaches is he doesn't always tell you what he's teaching you. And they kind of have that in the Karate Kid, right? They've got Daniel, he's polishing Mr. Miyagi's car. He's like, what am I doing? And it's funny, it's a comedic device. But there's an inherent value to having people come to the conclusions on their own and discovering things on their own and then bring that back. And then you work on it and hone it from there. So a big a big part of what we're looking to do when we're teaching people is have them doing things in faith, right? You just show up and you do the work.
Yeah.
And the rest will come. Because if you try to tackle it and like, if you're looking to perform at the level of a black belt and you're coming in with no experience, it's going to be overwhelming. You're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
So you show up, you make mistakes, and you do better next time. And even we got some people, like lessons, they may 2 times a week, 3 times a week. But if you come in and you enter the mindset that you're going to push yourself as far as you can, that accomplishment starts to rack up with consistency.
And that thing you said about making mistakes and going from there, a big thing I think a lot of people fall into, and I have as well, is you'll be working on some sort of discipline, whatever it may be, and then you mess up one time, and then you're like, you just give up.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are like, oh, I failed once, there's no reason to do it anymore.
Yeah.
If that's your attitude, maybe you didn't want to be doing that in the first
place.
Yeah.
Exactly. And making mistakes is a big part of life in general.
Oh yeah.
And being able to get back up and keep going is a really big part of that, which is very cliche, but it's...
Oh, of course.
It's true. Things are cliche for a reson, I find, for the most part.
I think that's a cliche, too.
Yeah. I literally have a poem about cliches. That's a thing I did.
I remember you read that. That was fantastic.
It still needs work to like... and all that, but I love the idea of just taking but
cliche of cliches.
Yeah. But going back to just because I feel I want to explore it more with your family.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about your father and how he was committed and disciplined to, you were his kids and he was going to raise you.
Yeah.
What about like your little brother? Was there did you feel like you were sort of raising him too at any point? Like what was the relationship there with your brother?
This is really cool. My name is Liam, right?
Yeah.
Which is Gaelic for diligent guardian or dutiful protector, right? Aiden's name, he's not much younger than me, just 18 months. Aiden's name means warmth of the home or warmth of the hearth, right? And you can see there's kind of an inherent design intended there,
intended
right?
with those names. Yeah
It's meant to be a pair. A lot of our childhood was just we did everything together, right? And a lot of people, I'll hear them talk about like quarrels they've had with their siblings, and like how some people say like they hate their siblings. And I know they don't mean it, but just the idea of saying that is wild. You've suffered from this, and any teacher I've had. Especially my Spanish teachers, and anybody I talk to, they all hear me brag about my family. Yeah, that's my MO. That's my thing. I'm very proud of my family. I think part of it is that Aid and I, we had to go through so much growing up together that if we hadn't been together like that, and like our father made it a really big deal that you guys are here for each other. If we weren't, we wouldn't have made it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, part of it was we didn't have an option, but it also helps when you love him.
Yeah, I got to talk with your brother one time when he was here because I drove him back to the hotel after.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, and it was a lovely. Your brother's. He looks a bit like you.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Not quite as tall.
No, I would hope not. He doesn't want to be as tall as. Nobody wants to be as tall as me, man.
That's fair. We won't talk about that. You get bugged about that ad nauseum. But I can definitely see, like, when we met him, like, the bond you two had. Yeah. It's just really strong. And that familial bond still carries you to this day.
Absolutely.
And I presume you see it carrying you far into the future.
I don't know. I have trouble imagining anything else. And I don't have a desire to imagine anything else. So,
yeah. Would you, at the topic of family, so you left home, came to Knox, and this is similar to a question I asked Josh when he was here, but like, what was the experience like of making friends or sort of the Knox family, right? Like the group of people you have here.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody when I came out here.
Yeah.
It was, but it was what I needed. It was nice because I grew up when you spend your whole time and your whole life in one place. You interact with people that know you.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. And I knew for college I wanted to go away. And I knew, like, the strength of the bond between my father and my brother and I it'd change, right? It'd develop in new ways, but wasn't going to lessen in any degree.
Mm-hmm.
So making friends out here, I didn't realize it until I was talking with my dad 2 weeks or so after I had come out here, and I realized I act a lot like him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just do what he does. And that's worked out. I didn't have any trouble. I just talked to the people I like to spend time with and went from there.
Yeah. So you just you'd meet people, you'd like them, and then you'd continue to spend time with them.
Yeah. And then, you naturally have people that you tend to eat with and people that you tend to go to classes with. I just tried to stay open, and I made beautiful friendships because of it. A lot of those people have graduated now.
Which is crazy.
A lot of my initial friend group was people that actually worked at the college, people that were post-backing, and seniors, and some juniors, and they're all gone now. So I've had to adjust it every year as I don't lose them, but they move on.
Move on. And so I know you have good friends in the writing group, such as Celador, and our own writing group now as well.
Yes, we do.
Which is a lovely thing, and I hope we continue it into next year as well.
Oh yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll have a poem for us tonight that I wrote, which should be good. Because I've been really slow on that recently.
Me too. I've had a wild term up to now, so I've been slacking, but I have stuff.
Yeah, and so you have that. You involved in music groups with jazz. Mm-hmm. I know you have a lot of friends there. Magic communities.
Yes, Magic the Gathering.
And D&D too. I mean, the one guy who came back and visited.
Yeah, Nathan.
Nathan, exactly. Out of curiosity, because I love D&D, when did you first was that a here at Knox thing or a back home?
One of my best friends back home, John Hoffman, right? For his birthday, we did like a one-shot D&D session. I was like, oh, this is neat. And then never thought about it again. Then I came out to Knox, and I think either Nate or Brendan, one of them, invited me to their campaign. And I was like, yeah, sure, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And I originally started hanging out with them because we all played Magic, and they're like, oh, we all hang out together for our D&D campaign. It was an overlap. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. It was fantastic, and that was right around when I'd started going to improv. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, no, I didn't do improv till my second year. Whatever. It's the exact same.
Yeah.
You're improvising, except you have some guidelines, and you get to do high fantasy stuff.
The overlap is crazy. Yeah. Like, the campaign I'm running right now has a lot of improv people in there, and I'll sometimes forget to have them roll for certain things because I'm just, like, bouncing off what they're doing. I'm like, oh, wait, nope, you gotta roll.
You have to roll to see if you can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Roll to roll.
But it's exactly what it is. And Josh Altoff is the one who got you to improv, correct? Your second year?
Oh, yeah. Josh and I got closer to each other through not improv training, RA training.
Mm.
And then he was like, hey, you should come to improv. I said, sure. I figured, try it. I loved it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm biased.
Oh, of course you are.
But
Mr. President.
Yeah, like I'm a wee bit biased, but with all that, you mentioned RA. I feel like we're bouncing around, but it's just because I'm so full of...
That's fine. Let's bounce.
Yeah. Did you become... I know becoming RA in a lot of ways was sort of a necessity, right? Like...
Oh, yeah. Needed the money. Well, I needed the money. I was going to get some job somehow.
So what led to you choosing to be an RA over other potential jobs?
My RA, JJ Scallo. I think that's just how you say his last name. His name's JJ. Mm-hmm. Fantastic guy. I showed up on my first day. I showed up the day before orientation because I was coming from so far away. I didn't show up with any family. It was just me. And one of the students picked me up from the airport. His name was Patrick. He offered me his McDonald's, and I was like, oh, this is
Already so nice.
But
Yeah.
no, you eat that. And then JJ was just introduced himself, said, "Let me know if you need anything," and then he was just the go-to. He was kind of like a go-to older brother, like kind of absentee older brother for the first year. And I was like, "Hey, I've had some experience being a brother. I've done that for a little bit. This job seems cool."
Yeah.
And I saw what the programs he was doing to bring the community together, and like how he basically built the community in that suite in Seymour without a suite area. And I was like, okay, that's
That's awesome.
that's awesome. I want to be a part of that. And so I applied. I had my interview with Tiana and Josh. And Josh and I had barely interacted up until now.
Yeah.
But I had my interview, and they said, "Hey, you got the job?" And I was excited. And then I did training. And then I did training again, because for this year, this was my second time doing training. And then I'll do training again in the fall. Yeah.
And so it sounds to me like you, when it came to making friends and meeting new people, had a way of doing it, right? Like you knew, well,
Sure.
like you, there was no like you ended up with the wrong crowd for a period of time. There was no,
Well, that whole wrong crowd thing, I don't know. I just
well, wrong for you. There's not like a
Yeah.
wrong crowd, but like not the right match for you, I should say.
One thing that many people have told my father about him and told me is that I'm helplessly blunt. And part of that is if I don't, like, if you, like my freshman year when I was looking to make friends and everything, if I wanted to hang out with someone, I was like, "Hey, you want to hang out?" And it's, "Sure." And then, "Okay, cool, that's it."
That's it.
Yeah, no, didn't worry about if I was being awkward or maybe overstepping bounds, or just I was worried. I'm like, all right, let's say hi, let's be nice, and if something goes wrong, then we backpedal, right?
Yeah.
We figure it out and we learn from the mistake.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people worry about being embarrassed or whatever, but what's going to happen anyway? Just
No matter what, there's gonna be awkwardness there, for sure. Well, to get into a bit of the poetry, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
You and Josh were part of a poetry writing group, if I'm
Yes.
remembering this correctly,
We
for
took
a
a workshop
class.
together.
Yes. And at some point I had overheard this, and I looked at Josh and said, "Oh, I've never written poetry. That sounds cool." And he was like,
You should
"Feel free-
come.
You should
Yeah.
come."
Yeah, so we got paired up. Well, we chose each other because we'd been through training together as
Yeah.
RAs. We were like, "Oh, we could be partners for this." For Monica's class, there's a collaborative chapbook, right? And you have to write poems in companionship with another poet. And then Josh and I tried writing some poems together, like swapping lines and editing each other's stuff. And as part of that, we had to have writing conferences. I still have that syllabus. I also took the class again because it's a great class. And as part of that, we had to meet once a week to kind of check in, see where we were at, and make sure we had enough poems for chapbook. And we would do that in the round room in Old Main. And then Josh said you'd expressed some interest, so we invited you to come. And then you stayed, and then we just kept inviting people.
And now it's this huge
now
group of people.
Yeah, it's a bunch of people now.
Yeah, I mean, some come and go with frequency, right?
Some will come for a term and then go on, but
yeah,
we got a nice core group of people.
yeah. And I remember that first day I came. You just like essentially you took me and went like, "Here's what poetry is," and I was like,
I don't know if we did it in those terms, but
it was a bit of an over exaggeration.
yeah, we threw you into it. We had you writing stuff. It was fun.
And I just remember it was that moment of me going like, I really enjoy this.
Yeah.
I could see myself really enjoying doing
It's
this.
fun.
Yeah. Like, gosh, I don't know what my secondary education and my education did to me, but like, it was like, I just didn't, I always associated poetry with, I had forced to write this A-B,
Oh man.
whatever. and-
Rhyme.
Yeah, right. And it just wasn't fun. It felt forced and not very good. But then I'd come here and you show me, I believe it was the E.E. Cummings poem that was just
Yes.
it's like silence is it was, but put in a way.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is great. Like the limitless possibility of having fun with words.
And we did the word map stuff.
Yes.
And then we're like, cool, now you have to use all of these.
And we listened to Soldier by Richard.
Oh.
Richard? No, not
Richard Dawson.
Richard Dawson, yes. And wrote poems based off that.
Yeah, that was great. Richard Dawson's a fantastic musician.
Yeah. And ever since then, it's just been one heck of a ride. And
yeah.
so, in that vein, has poetry ever, because I know you write a lot of poems about family.
Yeah.
And I talked to Josh a little bit about this because you're both creative writing people. I suppose I'll ask you a similar question. Like, what ways does writing poetry or writing in general help you with your just life in general? Like, other than, of course, the obvious creative process of making something, what does writing do for you?
Well, it kind of became the center of everything, right? Once I started writing poems with Mr. Ross, it just kind of, I'd be sitting in math class, and if I wasn't paying attention, I was working on poems, right? And then you're at lunch, your friend says something, and you're like, wait, that was cool. Can I write that down? Or do you want to write that poem? And then I just started looking at everything through, well, how does this fit into a poem?
Yeah.
Obsessively. And then, you find a way to balance that. But, like, whenever I have, aspirations for school and then setting up some form of a career, right? But everything comes back to, well, I got to do this poem thing. So, and it's in everything. Like, I carry around notebooks of just stuff that I think of, and most of it doesn't make it into anything, but it's just good to record.
And I don't know if this would be accurate, but just hearing the fact you carry a notebook around with you, you're constantly thinking, kind of plays off the discipline thing. Like, the idea of continuing to do that, but it's also fun. Like,
it is so much fun.
It's not a burden, right?
No, well, the nice thing about doing the martial arts, too, that's fun, too. Like, when you get into it, like, if you go to, like, 3 classes in a row, like, if you go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, on Wednesday, you can feel yourself, like, working. And then you go to spar, and it just feels good. Like, they talk about runner's high and stuff. There's a similar experience for when you've been training for weeks and months, and you just leave a lesson, and you don't feel tired. Like, you just feel
like empowered, and
you just feel up. You're activated, right?
And poetry does a similar.
Poetry's. I wouldn't say there's the same kind of physical elation.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that people don't have physical interaction with poetry, because that's not true. But for me, it's puzzle work. And then when you get it, you're like, ooh, right? There's always the ooh factor.
Yeah, there's that moment where someone says something about your poem, or you look at it and go, it all comes together.
Yeah, poetry there's a lot of labor to it. I actually think martial arts is a little more performative, because you train, and you rehearse everything you do, and then when you spar, it's kind of like performing. And when you spar, it's for very, very short periods of time. Like, you'll never spar for more than, like, 20 minutes. And then it's all improvised, and then everything you did is done. It's gone. But the poem, even if it's, like 5 lines? You sit with those same 5 lines, and then when you're done, it's there.
Yeah.
You have it for as long as you decide to keep it, or longer.
I guess more of a question for myself and others. Do you have any advice on, like, let's say I'm back home, right, and I'm wanting to start doing martial arts training.
Oh, okay.
What should I look for? Like, to avoid potential scammers? What are some of the, like, go-tos?
Yeah, there's a weird culture now that I think because of stuff like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and partly because of our celebrity of, like, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, and now MMA. MMA is a really big thing.
Yeah.
where you have people that aren't doing it as they're living because they love it, but because it's a living.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting way to go, because unless you're like really commercializing this stuff, there's not much money to be made, right? You don't. This isn't the type of thing you do for money. So the big thing that our school does that a lot of other schools don't is that control.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to go take lessons from someone else, I'd go in and watch lessons as they're taught, and they'll usually let you sit in or try it out for a week.
Mm-hmm.
You could just look up kickboxing. Like, there's a business called I Love Kickboxing, and there's a lot of gyms that'll be like boxing based and stuff. So yeah, I've never had to go find.
Yeah, because you've always had.
So I actually don't have much advice beyond just feeling it out.
Have you ever encountered, like, scam people, though? Like, people who will come into a gym, or, like, people who will come to a gym and think they're, like, a martial arts master or something, and then they realize,
Yeah. Well, it's going to seem contradictory because we've been talking about it all show, but I don't know. When someone talks a big game about martial arts and how good they are, and I mean, sure, man.
Yeah.
All right. Why do you feel the need to tell me that, you know? And a lot of people some people will come up to you in the gym if they see you training. They're like, yo, spar with me for a little bit. And that's dangerous, sparring with someone you don't know. They'd be like, I won't even hit you. I just want to warm up and get practiced. And so, yeah, that worries me.
Yeah.
I don't know, there are people that do it in good faith, but some people are looking to like show up in a gym where they don't know anybody and kind of flex and maybe hurt some people for the benefit of their ego. It's just not worth the risk. Spar with people you know. Spar with people you love. There you go.
Ooh.
Man, when I spar with my dad, oh my God.
That's got to be an experience.
He's insane.
I mean, he sparred with Muhammad Ali, right?
He didn't spar with Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
No, he trained in the same gym as Muhammad Ali.
All right.
Yeah, so his buddy Michael Coles trained. Michael Coles, he was the welterweight champion of the world for a little while until he retired. You know, kind of good. And he and my dad, they were buddies. They grew up together, and they did martial arts together. And Michael Coles trained with Muhammad Ali. My father happened to be in the same gym as Muhammad Ali, and he kind of noticed the exercises that Ali was doing, and he was like, "Oh, I'll start doing those." It's kind of in the gym, and he was kind of just following him, and he was keeping pace. But my dad did grow up and spar with Sugar Ray Leonard. He's another boxer, famous boxer. And they at the Lanham Boys and Girls Club. And they'd spar, and Sugar Ray Leonard wasn't very good, from what I've heard. Mark Skerdak and a bunch of the other guys would, and my dad probably. For all I brag about my father, he's very, very humble.
Yeah.
They all say that Sugar Ray was horrible. And then he went off and became a boxer. But at the Boys and Girls Club, he lost a bunch of fights. And we're not gonna get like Sugar Ray Leonard to come dispute anything I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I could say anything, but no, I grew up with Sugar Ray Leonard, and then my dad would a bunch of his friends ended up going pro, being professional world class athletes, and he was that class too in his prime, and he had the opportunity to pursue a professional career in kickboxing. But there are some people that are just looking to hurt people. You know, they get into that because they enjoy hurting people, and that's risky. There's also, unless you're at like the highest level, not even skill wise, but if you're at the highest level of commercial success, that's where there's money. Other than that, there's not much money to be made in professional fighting. And those careers are short.
I guess sort of getting away from martial arts, poetry. and all these sort of things.
Oh, they're the same thing, aren't they?
No, they're not. But
I think they're.
I think what we've been talking about is there are definitely differences, but I was just interested to hear.
Yeah.
There were some similar ways of talking about it that were being
Yeah.
brought up, but talking about your own future.
Oh boy.
Right, because you said you're a junior, you're having to think
That's right.
about graduate school and all that. What? You're majoring in psychology, correct?
And creative writing.
And creative writing.
Double major.
What are your kind of thoughts on, like, how are you planning on? I guess what's the goal?
What's
right?
the goal? Yeah.
What's the goal?
So, my goal for a long time has been to go to graduate school for both.
Mm-hmm.
Pursue either a PhD or master's in clinical psychology, and get an MFA in poetry, MFA creative writing, and go from there. I think the end goal has been recently to end up as a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I think I'd be good at it.
I think so too. Just talking
knows?
with you, I think you'd be a wonderful therapist.
That's very kind. But part of that, as I'm beginning to just even look at the paths available to me, I'm valuing keeping an open mind and not pigeonholing myself and being, no, I have to go do a graduate school program and I have to go from there and get a thing and then I have to start my own whatever, you know? Just take opportunities as they come. And that's where I'm at. I do have a plan of applying to grad schools and going from there.
But being open to, if an opportunity presents itself, to be willing to take that.
Oh, yeah. As long as it's not an office job.
Yeah, that's the
I couldn't
thing.
do it. Like, I've tried office jobs. And I've had some opportunity to work office jobs on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Like over in advancement. I love the people in advancement. Yeah.
But it's just not for you.
Well, I love the people in advancement, and the work I do is nice. It's great to be with them. But, like, I've done other office work, and the people I worked with were great, but that's not what I want to do after college. I grew up with, like, my role model for employment is self-employed. And so I grew up in that household, and self-employment was the norm.
Yeah.
Right? And he doesn't really have some plan for what he wants us to do. He just wants us to go be happy, which I think I could pull off. I think we could do happy.
We can do happy.
So that's the plan. We're gonna do happy and probably be self-employed, or in some degree. Like
to some degree,
Yeah.
be in charge of your own, like, salary, I suppose, right? Or like,
be entirely responsible for my own income. It's a bit risky.
Yeah, but it's also, that sounds so worthwhile, and like, there wouldn't be a lot of worries about your own, I'm trying to find the words, like self-value, right? Like, you're self-employed, you kind of give yourself your value instead of your paycheck giving you value.
And I think for being like 9-to-5 jobs, office jobs, like, they have that too.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to take it to how I've seen it actualized in my father's life, because he was able to dedicate every minute he needed to and more to his family when Ada and I were growing up. And I don't see corporate climates today that support that.
Yeah.
Like, I can not fathom being separated from family for like 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and like for the entire week. Like, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I understand a lot of people do it because they need to.
They need to. Yeah.
Right? But I'm gonna try and not do that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Throughout your time here at Knox, you eventually, at some point, I presume, bumped into someone named Soleil.
Yes.
What was that? Like, how'd you guys end up meeting? And
we met in, it was 4th period philosophy of music with Brandon Polite.
Be polite.
Yeah, his initials are Be Polite. That's fantastic.
It's amazing.
and it was in Old Main. I think it was either on the third floor or the second floor. I think it was on the third floor. But yeah, we met there and we were kind of friends. And then last year around the fall, like October-ish, we started going out, and it's been great from there. Yeah.
You just started going out?
Yeah, we were just kind of talking, and then we started hanging out. And then I think she thought we were going on dates before I knew we were going on dates. I thought we were just hanging out. But yeah, we went from there.
Very good. So very natural, sort of. There wasn't like a... It's starting now.
It starts
something.
now. Yeah, no, none of that. No. I'm part of being helplessly blunt is really not picking up on a lot of the like subtle cues a lot of people like to use. I don't know. I'm helpless. I had to just ask her. I was like, wait, so are you thinking of this as a date? She was like, yeah. I was like, all right, cool. Date. Or like I think it was because on what she thought was her third date, I actually asked her out and said, hey, do you want to go on a date? She was like, you mean another one?
That's so
yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
No. Gosh, I feel like we've covered so much.
Yeah.
I guess a question I would ask you, and it's a sort of a topic I ask a lot of people, though it can be a kind of harder topic, is like, in life we all face struggles, right? We face barriers in life. Life is not always an up, you know? It's downs too. What sort of things do you do when you're in those low points in life, when you're struggling? What are your kind of things you have learned to do to get through those?
You know, just the light stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Girlfriend, career aspirations.
And now, how do you get through suffering?
Yeah, you know, if I were to ever write a cookbook, these would be all the recipes. Let's see. I pray.
Yeah?
Yeah, I pray. And I talk to my dad, talk to my brother. And I try to let people know what's going on with me and go from there. When I'm home, I go to Al-Anon and AA meetings and Alateen meetings. Oh, here you go. Here, you could put this on a Hallmark card, right? I was talking to my dad, and we were going through rough. We've had our fair share of uphill battles.
Mm-hmm.
And recently too, we were talking, and he said, "Well, I've got all this going on, but I'm not quite sure how it's going to pan out. So I'm just going to do the next right thing and try and be of service to somebody." And that's my starting point. If I don't know what's going on or I'm not quite sure what to do, slow down, stop, find a way to be of service, to do for someone else, do something for someone else, and then just do the next right thing, whatever that is. You don't even need to know what it is. You can wait and ask. You can ask other people for help. Just be of service and do the next right thing. And that doesn't mean like I'm applying to grad schools and I do the next logistically correct thing to maximize blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Or whatever. No, sometimes the next right thing is, man, I need to shave today. Or like, you know, we're gonna wake up, we're gonna make our bed, and we're gonna shower, right?
It's just whatever that next step
whatever
is.
the next right thing is.
Do that.
Yeah, put it on a Hallmark card.
Do whatever the next right thing is.
Just next right thing.
Yeah, I feel the reason I ask people that is because you often get similar answers.
Really?
Yeah, it's a lot of sort of what, though yours is kind of unique in the service someone else, but you get a lot of like, just keep going, you know, reflect on yourself, and you get very similar things. And a lot of why I do this show is just, you know, asking people about their passions and how they have gone through life. Because I find we're all more similar in that regard than we give ourselves credit for.
That's kind of like the secret mission statement of your show.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's also just get to know people. So with those sort of going through struggles and all of that, I know, just hearing a bit about your own life, that you've had, especially in youth, your fair share of really not so great things.
Yes.
Um,
And with them, plenty of beautiful things as well.
yeah. And so, like, how... Because I know I've also dealt with certain things, right?
Yeah.
But how is it, like, carrying that? Or is it like carrying it?
Well,
Is it-
I don't have to carry it by myself.
Mm.
I got my brother and my father. That's how it's always been. And then beyond that, I have some fantastic friends. I count you among them. That I can just go to with whatever I've got going on.
Yeah.
And, prayer is a part of that. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had to carry anything alone.
Mm. That's
Makes
a
it
big
easy.
thing.
Yeah, well, it doesn't make it easy. Makes it doable.
Makes it doable.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's amazing to me. I like meet people who have like gone through certain things, and they're like this bastion of positivity, or like this.
Yeah.
Like, and I count you among those people when I
Okay.
think about those sort of people.
Bastion of positivity.
Well, like,
Put it on my resume.
anytime I'm around you, it's like my day's made a little bit brighter.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah. Man, I'm looking at that old bay and I'm going.
It's good, man.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff. I put it on everything.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not quite to the point where I'm putting it on everything.
You'll get there.
I'm getting close, though. Like burgers and like
Oh, it's
literally.
so good. It's just, it goes with everything. I've put it on my ice cream.
Is it good on ice cream?
Yeah, it's good on vanilla.
All right.
And like
Let's try that.
cookie dough and the other vanilla X variants. Vanilla and vanilla et al. There you go. That's your rock group. That's your band
Vanilla
name.
et al.
Yeah, vanilla et al.
That's a pretty good rock group. Yeah, it's interesting that you're moving on to this stage of senior year.
Oh god, that's wild to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Sure, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to think of anything else to cover.
Okay. That's fine.
Well, okay. I'll give myself but a brief moment of pause, I suppose, of like
Okay.
anything else I could think to ask you. But what I will say is thank you very
Yeah,
much for
sure.
coming on. It's always a really great time. And
Yeah.
you and Josh, I always say this, are like the two role models I have.
Oh
when I came
dear.
here.
You might need to upgrade, man.
No, but it's true. You guys are the people when I, was at a sort of low point. You guys invited me to that writing group.
Yeah.
And you were sort of role models from that point onward.
I'm honored to hear that. I'm sure Josh is too. I'm sure he could gush for hours.
Yeah. I could, but I won't.
Yeah.
But I
No,
will.
that's your show.
Yeah. It is in a lot of ways. I guess we'll end the show, not the conversation though, because I
Yeah,
hope
of
to
course.
talk with you much more in the future. But
Of course.
I'll end the show with the question I always end the show with.
Uh-oh.
I always end the show with this question. If you could tell future you anything, or anyone listening to this, like
Okay.
you're back listening to this.
Okay, so
someone's-
we're at the radio piece out of time because it's recorded. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's true. Like, what would you say to a future you maybe listening back to this, or just anyone listening?
Oh boy. Now I gotta sound profound and everything.
I mean, Frank McAndrews' answer was, don't sweat the petty things and don't pet the sweaty things.
Don't pet the sweaty things.
It doesn't have to
I
be
like
super
that.
profound, but
Yeah.
it can be whatever you want to give to future you or someone listening.
For future Liam, make sure you're still writing poems. And good job, you made it. You're still alive. That's plenty. Yeah, and for, I don't know, anybody listening, it's weird to like address just any other human
Just
being.
any other, yeah.
Just any other human being. Keep going. Yeah, stay alive.
Keep
Yeah.
going. Stay alive.
Stay alive. We'll go with that. Stay alive.
That's a really good. I think that's good.
I think that's a hard one to disagree with.
Yeah, I feel like you hear "Stay Alive." You can,
Yeah.
for the most part, agree. Is a good concept.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
This has been The Big Picture.
The Big Picture.
WVKC, the voice of Knox, 90.7 HD2. And that's the show, everybody. Have a wonderful day.